So the balance patch for Etheria Restart is out, and instead of going through the entire patch notes, which you probably already have seen from like all the other content creators, instead I would just want to focus on which animuses you want to focus on after the patch. Now, to better understand this, we do look at the adjustments which happened with this patch notes, and there were a lot of surprising and also questionable decisions when it comes to animus balancing in this game, but nonetheless we review that, and also based on that I just give you my personal recommendation. Now, first and foremost, we have Helit. Helit got buffed, which is the biggest buff of all the units. His base speed was increased from 111 to 117, basically efficiently pushing him to 127, ties him in base speed with Lilith, and now he can actually speed contest with the highest speeders in the game. Now the question does still rely though, how good is it to get Helit getting his turn 1? That is a question that we need to figure out for ourselves, because you can just use a stripper and then going first with him is not necessarily the best thing. Maybe on the offensive side that is maybe more useful, or even in the RTA side of the game, but we will really have to wait and see. And also they increased all allies at the shroud barrier power from 240% to 300% of own attack, so the shield does get a lot beefier. So ideally what you want to do, and he's basically in terms of return of investment a very solid unit now to let us up compared to all the other units, just because now with his S3 getting that buff and his base speed, what you need to know is if you don't have a Holden. Now let's take a look at Holden, at Helit really quick down here. Is he has actually all his speed increases in his S3, so he gets plus 15 speed when you increase his S3. Now this is really cool because that makes him cheap, so you don't necessarily have to invest into the S1 and then into the S3. You only have to invest into the S3. So all you need for him to get his maximum speed potential is getting him 3 lattices, and you got him where you want him. Probably over time, if you invest more in him, and that's probably with every unit in the game, gets better. But you know what, at the end of the day you can do 114 and you're good to go. So he's a safe unit to invest. Now then we have Holden. That is one of the questionable choices I was talking about, and absolutely makes no sense why this guy receives a buff. He's already so dominating in the PvP side of this game. Like, that he's getting a buff makes absolutely no sense. Like, his damage scales now instead of 110 to 125%, and the death down increased from 20 to 25. I feel like this is okay, but this one I don't understand. And they increased the chance of counter rate from 10 to 12%. That's also a lot. And the final damage increase up from 5 to 6. So basically what they did is increasing his counter chances to deal more damage with a higher chance of defense breaking. So either this should have been lower in case because of that, or they just should have kept it the same way and shouldn't have increased the defense down, because now with, like, he can be very threatening now with his counter attack. So now with the Holden, you also have to decide if you want to go with the skill 1 for a more, I would say, DPS bruiser type-ish approach, or if you want to go with a skill 2, which is more of a support type of character, because this S2 has a full skill reset. Then also what I like to see is that Claw's got a buff, Chlorus got a buff. They basically increase his damage by slightly. I don't really think it changes too much for him. It does help him out, but I feel like he does need 1 or 2 more buffs depending on what they decide to do. But if it's that small, I feel like 2 more buffs is what they needed. Then they decided to also buff Rahu, which in my opinion doesn't make any sense, to be honest. Like, why would you buff this guy? He was already that great, and they just made him even better for no reason. Now if you want to invest into him, you can also do that. And then also they decided to buff, which also surprised me, the Remoka. But I mean, outside of Doki Doki, she doesn't really see much play. But I think it is a good change, especially for, I think it's this one, the skill 3. Now it says like the damage is instead of 180, 200%, and a 100% chance of inflicting a stun. This is a good change, I guess, for people who don't have the best module quality necessarily, and helps out with killing the weaker mobs, so you get the splash damage with a S3. I think for PvE purposes this does help as well, and is good. Now for the Fushu, this one I was actually like, when I first had her and I looked at her ascensions or her dupe system, they now changed the effect accuracy to effect resistance. I think this was a mistake at the beginning, because I looked at it like, why does she have accuracy? She doesn't even have anything where she needs it anyways. She doesn't debuff anything or a pushback or anything. This doesn't make sense, so this is a good change. And then there were also a couple of different changes. Gray got more damage, Oboro got more damage, Chiaki got no free stacks, which increased her healing capabilities. The Rin also got stronger now, since they reduced her cooldown from 4 to 3 turns. A couple of changes here. Also, I'm not surprised, because this was one of the things I predicted and said, that they might revoke the changes they did to Marvel. Now Marvel's cooldown is from 5 turns down to 4 turns, which is a good change in my opinion, because that helps out. I don't think, like, for PvP it doesn't really make that much of difference, because there's also not that much use over there, but overall for a PvE side of the game that does help a lot, because like 5 turn was way too long for PvE, way too long, especially when you use him for grindier content. Now with 4 turns it makes him a lot more manageable, that he can actually use his S3 more often, which helps you to control opponents. Then Makoto also PvP change, which is huge, because now she got 3 extra speed, which helps her out as well. And then also they increase the damage from 300 to 360, and she's also sort of in a bruiser matchup the unit that helps you against the bruiser, if you go bruiser versus bruiser type of unit. But yeah, overall what I noticed is they decided to buff, they even decided to buff Sybil. Probably they watched Barcode's video and decided, okay, you know what, let's make her a little bit stronger so people can use her for like Aurora and stuff like that. And also they slightly boosted number 41. She's not there where she was in the beta. So in the beta she was at 35%, then they nerfed it down to 20%, and now they decided to buff her up to 25%. I really don't think this change makes a difference. I feel like she needs a complete revoke. I feel like she needs the 35%, and then we can talk about it. Then the Kachi, the red one, is also changed now. The chance of stunning is from 35% to 50%. And as well, they did nerf the revelation, so now it deals 30% less damage, but I think it doesn't change much about revelation in PvP. I think you can't really, like with supporters, just straight up one shot with like one support unit or something, or so. You have to combine it with a DPS, and it's I think revelation still works the way it did before. Like if you bring 3 revelation units, this thing will still kill. I'm telling you that. Like if the 30% isn't really that much, if you think about it, like if you did 9k damage pre-patch, then you do like around 6k, 7k, something around these lines, and if it was lower, then it's not even that much lower. So you probably at max per ref unit multi-hitter you lose at max 10k HP in terms of damage output, which is still quite a bit. But overall this change, I don't think if you go with like a full ref build, it doesn't really change that much overall. And I also decided to change Golden line just to get his stacks faster, so they increase the number of final damage up and effect accuracy, but now your max stacks are faster to get. Now what I'm still surprised is that they did not decide to nerf Bloodbath and Lighthouse in this game, which I think in my opinion needs adjustment as well. And I think it's the wrong approach just to tackle Revelation without tackling Bloodbath, especially Bloodbath, and then also Lighthouse in combination. Maybe this will address with the next patch, but currently if you look at the patch notes and the buff system, what I kind of find funny is they decided to buff Holden, which in my opinion did not need any buffs, because he's very well presented in the PvP metagame, and they decided to buff this depending on based on the PvP side of the game, and they did not buff, for example, Ihoyan, his sister, because I feel like his sister could also require a slight buff, increase her damage number slightly. That's what they could have done, or they could have made that fleeting glance at the base value also slightly stronger. That would help her out as well, because she really struggles. Also, if you don't have any like lattice investments into her, You really have to make it like super DPS heavy if you wanna one-shot something. Otherwise, you need a lot of lattice investment to make the turn. Then even then, it's sometimes 50-50. So I feel like she could have also would have deserved like a slight buff. If we're already talking about like metagame changes, right? Like a Holden, then might as well just buff her as well, right? Now, when it comes to who do you want to buff now, who do we want to focus on? As I said, Helit is a solid choice now with these changes. His S3, you only need 3 lattices, but also on first day we get Lilium, so you might want to hold off till then, and you want to wait for reviews from me because I will pull her, and then you can actually get a full picture of how she plays, how her values and numbers are, and maybe you have the pulse and the means to get her, and you might want to use your lattices for her. But now he with his change is a solid choice if you want to invest, so highly recommend now Helit with this change moving forward. Outside of that, you have also now Rahu and Holden, which you can also invest in. Also 2 solid choices. I feel like Rahu is a good unit overall to build because Rahu is a unit that also keeps Tiamat in check and can deal with Tiamat quite easily even right now, and they decided to buff him, which makes him even stronger against the Tiamat matchup. So just as a quick reminder, so you might want to invest into him as well. Yeah guys, and that sums up everything I wanted to share with you guys in this video. I really hope this helped you out, you have a better picture. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below about the entire changes, the balance patch, all the other changes, which I didn't mention because I felt like everybody already talked about it. I do like all the quality of life that is now coming with the next patch, especially the gear preset stuff, but let me know your thoughts. And yeah, as always guys, if you enjoyed watching this video, don't forget to leave a like and a comment down below. I really appreciate it, and see you with the next one. Deuces.